Welcome to A-Aron's Adventures. In this episode, I show how to fish striper boils. Stay tuned for some amazing topwater action. You won't want to miss this. It's late July, and the conditions are perfect for striper boils. A little overcast and no wind. A boil is what happens when a group of predatory fish chase a school of bait fish towards the top of the water and attack them at the surface in a feeding frenzy. This can make the water look almost as if it's boiling, which is where the term comes from. We spot a few fish hitting the surface up ahead and almost even run one over on our approach.
Oh, straight ahead. Oh, one just jumped right here. He just ran over one. Yeah, right there. Yeah, right here. Yeah, slow down and see if they pop up again.
It was only a small group of fish hitting the surface, and they dove back down before we could reach them. We stopped for a few casts, but don't have any luck, so we decided to move on. We speed towards another group of fish that we spotted over by the shore, but we make sure to stop short so the fish don't get scared by the noise from the engine. I don't waste any time taking my first cast, but it falls short. When fishing boils, you want to try and cast just past the fish, then bring your lure right through the group. I finally make a good cast, and right away I hook into a nice striper.
Oh, got him. There we go. But he feels bigger.
The lure I'm using is called a crippled herring. It's a silver metal jig that looks like a small bait fish. This lure can be very effective when fishing boils because it allows you to make long casts and you're able to retrieve it quickly, which allows you to cover more water and make more casts. And the speedy retrieval also helps trigger the fish to bite. My dad is using a topwater lure called a spook that mimics a wounded bait fish struggling on the surface. These can be very effective in boils too, but they have to be fished a lot slower. I have the same type of topwater on one of my other rods, so I can easily switch back and forth, which comes in very handy. And I finally get this one unhooked and added to the live well. Not bad for the first fish of the day. Boils typically only last a minute or two before the stripers have to dive back down and try to force the bait fish back to the surface. So while we wait for the fish to pop up again, my dad lowers the jig down to the bottom and hooks a striper. Unfortunately, it's really skinny and we have to throw it back. After this, we decided to move on because the boils in this area are fairly sporadic and not nearly as productive as we'd hoped. It's always a gamble to leave fish to try and find fish, but sometimes it pays off.
Oh, look at that. Look at him. I'm just getting him right now. Oh, he missed it. Come on, take it, take it, take it. Oh, come on.
We run into this boil just around the corner from where we were, and I can see the fish chasing after my lure, but none actually take it. And just as I recast to try again, I notice a much bigger boil behind me, so I reel in as quick as possible and make a great cast just down past that boil.
Yeah. Here we go. I should come right into him. Come on, I got him. Here we go.
As soon as the lure comes into the boil, I hook one. And as my dad tries to cast, he gets a big tangle in his line, and he's not too happy about it. This is a smaller striper, but he's really fat, so he has some good fillets on him, and actually the smaller, fatter ones are the best tasting.
You got him?
My dad hooks a pretty good striper while I'm retying my topwater, but right as I go to net it, the hook comes out and the fish gets away.
Oh, that's a nice one. Oh, damn.
We drove a little past this boil, but I managed to cast back and hook one. Unfortunately, it gets off right away.
Oh, we got him. Oh, he came off.
Now I start up the engine and get the boat turned around so I can drive us back up onto the fish. As soon as we get stopped and I cast out, I get 3 bites in a row. I only hook one, and it gets off right away.
Hit it. He hit it, but he didn't get hooked. Got him. Oh, came off.
The boil keeps moving away, so I have to turn the engine back on and drive us up towards it. My dad makes the first cast, and the second the lure hits the water, a fish bites it, but it doesn't get hooked.
Oh, he grabbed that already.
I hook one that gets off, but then I hook into another right away, and it puts up a good fight before it finally gets off too.
Got him. Oh, he came off. Got that one. There we go.
Just after my fish gets off, I managed to capture my dad getting a ferocious strike right next to the boat.
Oh, it came off. Oh! That was a good one, too. Yeah. All right, I should get one there. Oh, there he is. Oh!
We drive right up to a couple of big boils, and yet again I have another one get off right away. My dad also gets a strike that he misses, and it tangles his line around his hook too. There are fish all around the boat, and I frantically cast at them as I switch back and forth between poles. The fish dive back down momentarily, but my dad gets one off the front of the boat.
Got him. Yeah.
I cast my topwater way out to the right, but just as it lands I see another group of fish pop up further to the left, so I set it down and grab my other pole to try and cast at them.
Oh, there's one biting.
Of course, as soon as I cast the other rod, the fish pop up and start attacking my topwater. I try to switch back, but end up getting nothing. Shortly after, I redeem myself and catch a decent striper.
Oh, there's some. Just one. Couple popped up right there. Got him. There we go.
As soon as I get it into the boat, my dad spots a good boil up ahead, so I fire up the engine and run us up towards it.
Okay.
My dad catches a good striper right off the bat, but I can't manage to make any bite. There are stripers popping up all around the boat, but somehow I'm not getting any.
Oh my God, there's a ton. How am I not getting one yet? Oh, he's rolling at it.
The fish are everywhere, and I'm casting both poles as fast as I can, but somehow I'm still not getting any.
Look at him. Jesus, look at him over there. That one's got yours.
Finally, my dad gets one, and right after I hook up too. Of course, it gets off right away, but then I hook another that's fighting really hard.
Got him. Oh, he came off. Jesus. Here we go. Got him. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Oh, God. Came off.
And yet again, the fish gets off. I'm starting to get a little frustrated at this point, but then I cast right back out and immediately hook another. This one I actually land.
Here we go. Got him. Oh, I missed it.
I get another missed bite and it tangles my line around my hooks. And as I untangle it, I notice there's some damage to my leader, so I have to retie. And while I'm retying, my dad gets a ferocious strike that he misses too.
Oh.
Once I get retied, I make a long cast out of the back of the boat, and as soon as it hits the water, a nice striper grabs it.
There's something behind us. Oh, got him. Oh, yeah.
While I'm fighting the fish in, a good boil pops up just to the left of the boat, and my dad gets a good striper.
Oh, right there, Dad.
I can't resist the temptation, so I hold my pole between my legs and cast the other rod out to hook another fish, so I have 2 on at once, plus my dad's, making it a triple.
Oh, got 2 on at once.
The second fish I had hooked gets off fairly quick, but I still do manage to land the first one.
Oh, that's a good one, too. Look at that one, Dad.
Right after we get our fish unhooked, my dad gets another just off the front of the boat.
Oh, here's a big group out here.
I cast right on top of a couple out in the distance and get another good striper.
Got him.
When I go to put the fish up, there's a hornet on the live well, and hornets are notorious for stinging for no apparent reason.
Look at that. There's a hornet on our freaking thing, eating that blood. Look at that guy.
I take off my shoe and get ready to crush it when it takes off. But as it buzzes around trying to decide which one of us wants to sting, I smack it right out of the air.
He's coming back. Oh, hit him out of the air. Oh, up there too.
We're right in between 2 good boils. My dad takes the one on the left, and I take the one on the right. There are fish everywhere, but I'm still not getting any bites. But my dad hooks one behind me, and it gets off right away, but then he hooks another one.
Oh, there he is. Oh, he came off. Another one's after it. Oh, he's off too. There, now I got it.
While my dad's finding his fish in, I finally get one too, and make it another double.
There we go. Now I got him. Yeah. All right.
My dad and I both cast out into a big boil, and I hook one first. But the fish gets off, and in the process, tangles my line around my hooks.
There he is. Got him. Oh, he came off.
My dad hooks into a good one, but my lure's so tangled that I switch to my other rod and cast it out and get us another double.
Got him. There we go. This is a healthy little guy. That's a good one. Got him. Oh, come on. Got him. There we go. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, he came off.
I got this fish just off to the side of the boat as we were motoring towards a different boil, but the hook comes out and nearly flies back and gets me. We continue forward and move in on a bigger boil, and my dad hooks one right off the bat. It gets off, and then another one misses his lure right after that. On his next cast, my dad gets a good striper and manages to land this one too. I make several terrible casts and don't manage to catch anything, but my dad unhooks his fish and casts out to catch another. We drive up on another good boil where I immediately get a nice striper.
Got him.
When using lures with multiple treble hooks like this, you have to be very careful when unhooking the fish. The foot pin technique comes in very handy, as well as using needle nose pliers. The boil had moved away from us, so I fire up the engine and catch us up. My dad gets a good striper out of the front, so I cast out right by him, and I briefly hook one and miss another bite.
Oh, nice. He hammered that. Oh, come on. He missed it. Oh, come on. Got him. Oh, God.
On the next cast, I hook a fish that gets off as well, but then I hook into another, and this one I actually managed to land.
There we go. Oh, come on. There we go. Got him.
There's a huge boil just in front of the boat. I get several bites before I finally hook into one right by the boat. My dad hooks one too, but his gets off.
Oh, there. Take it. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. There we go. That one got him. Oh, that's a good one there. Look at that guy.
My dad gets 4 good missed strikes in a row here. Then I cast way out and hook into a pretty big striper.
Oh, there's a couple there. Got him. Yep. Oh, there we go.
This fish is foul hooked in the top of the head and the back, so it's pulling really hard. And while I'm fighting it in, my dad misses another good strike.
Oh, man.
After this, we head home. The fish are still biting, but we both have obligations later in the day, so we decide to call it quits. We filleted all the fish, made it home, and had everything put up, all before 11. It was quite a morning. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.
Oh, he spit out a minnow too. Yeah, he spit out, it looks like a baby bluegill or something. Yeah, it looks like we got a little patch of them. I can't even get retied. I see I caught the lunker though. They're all real fat. They've been eating good.